Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to A Now. Attention, this is not a drill, nor a cozy family show. This is A Now, cultivating a noblesse of the mind. Welcome to our latest seminar episode called We Have to Talk About Johnny. Why do we have to talk about Johnny?
Which Johnny? Well, we're talking about Johnny Depp, aren't we?
Yeah.
And, well, you brought it up. Why did you want to talk about Johnny?
No, you wanted to talk about Johnny.
Well, I think one of the reasons why you wanted to talk about Johnny.
You wanted to talk about Johnny.
Was because you said that you were wondering, well, actually, he's haunted us for a little while, Johnny Depp has, in a few different things.
Yes.
There's been a few people that we've become fascinated by and interested in,
yes,
in understanding.
And he's never been included in that list.
And he's never been included in that list, but he's always been connected in one way or another.
Yes.
And it started with Hunter S Thompson.
Yes.
But also, for me, Bruce Robinson.
Yes.
Who obviously adapted Hunter S Thompson's Rum Diary and then directed it.
Yes.
Die Antwoord as well. Johnny Depp has performed live with Die Antwoord.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I can't remember where.
Yeah.
But there was a big mashup of Yolanda Ninja, Johnny Depp, Marilyn Manson. And you can find it on YouTube.
Yes,
There's
which
a
country?
video of them. I think it was in the States.
Not South Africa.
It wasn't the South Africa, no.
Not South Africa.
And also Doug Stanhope, who I mentioned in the Crossing the Finish Line podcast because of his diagnosis of Finnish culture. And ultimately, it's a funny thing because I when I was younger, I was a big fan of Johnny Depp. You not so much.
Never
I don't
been.
think. But I was a big fan of his work, of the types of roles he took up.
Yes.
And that's probably why he haunts us as well, because he probably has, I mean, you know, different characters he's played. I can't remember the name of the drug lord in Blow, but he plays a very interesting character there.
Yeah.
Edward Scissorhands. Obviously he was in Nightmare on Elm Street, What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
My Left Foot.
Was he in My Left Foot?
Maybe that was Leonardo DiCaprio.
I'm not sure.
Okay, take it back.
But really his career has been about, and I think that this is admirable in a weird way, going after characters that seem to fascinate him. And he takes these characters up to varying degrees of success.
Yes.
I think Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was excellent. And I actually, for my sins, watched the film before I read anything by Hunter S. Thompson.
Yes, like many other people.
Of our generation.
Yes.
Yeah. But I started to get frustrated with Johnny Depp, particularly around the kind of Hunter stuff. And one of the reasons I got fed up with Johnny Depp in a way was because I think his claim is pretty big with regard to Hunter S. Thompson.
Yes, what do you mean?
Well, what was the name of the documentary? Was it called Gonzo, the documentary? About,
Yeah, there were a few, weren't there?
Yeah.
Gonzo, yeah.
Buy the Ticket, Take the Ride was another one.
Yeah.
Which is the one that's narrated by Gary Busey, can you remember?
I don't know who that is. I've seen them all.
Yeah. But obviously Johnny Depp is interviewed, and there was the documentary Breakfast at Hunter's, which Johnny Depp was in quite a lot, because I think that was based around the filming of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
I see.
So Johnny Depp was central to that because he was kind of taking on the mannerisms of Hunter.
Yes.
Maybe a bit of a way into this, so this is just my kind of approach, I suppose, is that as Johnny Depp's career has gone on, I've become less enamored with him.
Yeah.
I think something's been lost. And I locate it in his taking on of the role of Captain Jack Sparrow, which again, fascinating character. Keith Richards was the inspiration for that character. My problem with Johnny Depp is this, and I don't know what you think about this, but it's a mark of his acting that he takes these characters on, but I feel that they leave more of a mark on him than he leaves a mark on them. And there's a really famous...
I like that.
There's a really famous... He says this quite a bit. People say that if you've ever met Hunter S. Thompson, or he ever touched your life, he would influence it. An element would be taken on
Yes, he's so powerful.
And Johnny Depp says things like, I mean, I remember he funded the funeral, didn't he? And you've got some information on that, but he funded this elaborate funeral that was Hunter's vision. And he says something like, I think Hunter knew that I was the only one mad enough to really do this. And he's also described him and Hunter S. Thompson as being partners in crime. In a previous podcast, we've spoken about this word partners. I don't think there's any partnership, really, between Hunter S. Thompson and Johnny Depp.
Yes.
From culturally speaking, in terms of impact.
Yes.
So, these characters seem to leave a mark on him. Keith Richards has clearly left a mark on Johnny Depp. He kind of inhabits this Keith Richards character in a lot of what he's done since. And I don't think there's a partnership. So it's a weird way. In a weird way, you've got Johnny Depp, who haunts all these characters that we found interesting, and yet we've never felt the need to actually celebrate Johnny Depp. So I think we need to talk about Johnny.
Yes.
And maybe try and find out why he doesn't touch us, or whether who he is and what he's done doesn't quite speak to the ANOW sensibility that we're trying to develop, or at least use as a platform to explore.
Yes. Is he a charlatan?
A charlatan.
Is he a pretender? Is he a poser? What would be an appropriate word to describe him?
A fan boy, I would say.
He's a fan, but he's also an actor, isn't he?
He is, but he's very choice in the roles he seems to go after.
Yes.
I mean, can you think of any role that? I mean, if you were an actor and you wanted to take on the roles of fascinating characters.
Yes.
He's pretty much ticked them all off the list. I mean, he's taken on some pretty fascinating and interesting roles. Even, Finding Neverland with J.M. Barrie, which was horrendous.
Haven't seen it.
He tried, the Scottish accent was horrendous.
There's a recent one now that they've shown on TV, which must have been from 2015, 16, something like that, where he pretends to be a British aristocrat. Okay. And it's really a play on, it's an American playing a British role. And there is some exceptional fascination with the UK, with the British old culture with Johnny Depp, isn't there? Like there have been with a few of these Hollywood stars.
Yeah. The Anglophiles. But again, there's a kind of fan element to it.
He is a fan.
And fans are needy.
What is he originally?
He's an actor.
Yes, but what is he?
I think he comes from quite humble origins, really.
Yeah.
I think he's a Midwesterner.
But when he was a star, he played in a band, right? And then he became an actor.
Yeah, and based on his looks.
Yes, and I mean, he had the kind of a rock and roll pop element to him, which, I mean, there is an attraction. I mean, maybe generation or now in the 55 or something like that, they find him, I've heard many people saying that they find him mysterious, and that's the basis for an attraction, women. And I think that lies within his kind of artsy rock and roll combination mystique.
Yeah, because he was never really I mean, he's never been Hollywood in that mainstream sense.
No. If we can consider kind of an intellectual crowd or the smart set in Hollywood, then some names that would come up would be Johnny Depp. It would also be someone like Sean Penn.
Sean Penn.
Can you think of others?
Following on from that, I don't like the expression.
I mean, who would you say are
almost artistically authentic, that type of...
No, sort of intellectual. Sean Penn certainly wants to be considered an intellectual.
Yeah, I mean, would you put Spacey in that type of category? Or? For
example, there was a celebration of Christopher Hitchens, and they were on Skype, and then Stephen Fry hosted it. And it was when Christopher Hitchens was ill, and Stephen Fry hosted it, and then people would call in, and then the usual crowd would call in, such as Hitchens' old friends from Oxford. Yeah. James Fenton, the poet, spoke, and Martin Amis, of course.
Salman Rushdie, people like that.
Who else came in? Well, Sean Penn.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So it's this kind of intellectual. It becomes a bit problematic probably for them to be intellectuals there. Sean Penn is also in an awkward position because it's not exactly an intellectual environment. they become so self-aware. I think that's one problem in Hollywood or LA. Nonetheless, I think that Johnny Depp is generally considered to be kind of a smart guy, kind of a thinker, or he's associated with that.
Yeah.
And he also has an artistic aspect to
Absolutely,
him.
yeah.
And he recognizes that and he comments on it. And I think that he thinks of himself as a bit of a kind of artistic talent spotter.
Yeah.
But where were we with this? Well, I think, it's interesting for our purposes to look at intellectuals, but I wouldn't place him as one. I wouldn't name him as one. I think that he's done a cultural deed, and that is he has helped contemporary culture remember Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah,
and he has done that, and he has done that in a number of ways. Well, we mentioned all these documentaries. Most importantly, I think, if we're going to rank them, I think that it's his help in producing, making a reality, making also very popular.
Yeah.
2 films. The first one is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And the second one is The Rum Diary.
And actually, on that note, one thing that you reminded me of was that Bruce Robinson said that I would never have made this film if it wasn't for the persistence of Depp.
Yeah, I think he has.
So that's something to be grateful for, I think.
Yes,
because it's a great film.
And then there are those 2 things. I mean, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is, of course, a cult classic.
Yeah. And
it was very well known before that. But in terms of the effects of producing the film, it's for many people it's the first inlet to Hunter S. Thompson.
As it was for me.
Many people have not read the book nonetheless.
No.
Which I don't have a problem with, because ultimately, in the end, I think he will be recognized. Hunter S. Thompson will be recognized for the raw talent that he is and has. He had real talent. I think he will go down as one of the greatest authors. That's how he will be received.
Yeah.
But of course, they need to be remembered for people too, and that's a cultural deed. It's important.
And also, the importance of the film was cementing the myth of Hunter S. Thompson as well. And they go into this in the documentary.
Yes.
That part of it is the myth of, apparently Hunter used to say before he went to speak at universities, I don't know who they want me to be. Do they want me to be what's the alter ego, Ralph? The Dr. Gonzo character, or Hunter S. Thompson? Who is it going to be? So.
Yes, of course. That play, I think that cemented itself already. Him becoming his alter ego, Raoul Duke was, I think that was outplayed already when there was a BBC documentary that was made probably in the late 70s.
Yeah.
So by the time that Johnny Depp got involved, which probably was in the 90s.
Fear and Loathing Las Vegas, I think, was 93.
Yes, but it's the 90s that he becomes involved here. And so just to get the whole list. So the Fear and Loathing Las Vegas, The Rum Diary. The Rum Diary, I think, was not a published book by the time, around the same time, basically as part of the same package as The Rum Diary came out. It came out probably at the back of the success of the Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas film, when there was kind of a popular reception of that book. There was also business grounds for making The Rum Diary, and around the same time it was published. And then there are all these documentaries which involve Johnny Depp, and I think maybe there has been 2 or 3 or 4. And 2 of them at least involve Johnny Depp and Hunter S. Thompson, and then there's another one that was published in 2012, the most recent one, which was about, what's the name of his name? Is it Ralph Steadman?
Ralph Steadman was the artist.
Yes, For No Good Reason, that documentary was called.
Okay.
And it's just about Ralph Steadman as another crony, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is crony stuff. It's inevitable with someone as powerful as Hunter S. Thompson.
Absolutely.
But they're very keen on not just being cronies, but being, you know, almost trying to elevate themselves through Hunter to Hunter's level.
Yeah.
And this points to something for why we need to talk about Johnny, which makes us both feel slightly uncomfortable, I would say. And that is his need to not only do a cultural deed of raising Hunter S. Thompson to for public inspection and awareness. He also wants to attach himself to Hunter S. Thompson. A final note, Johnny Depp, which is also featured in the documentary, one of the documentaries with Johnny Depp, he paid a substantial amount of money that allegedly nearly ruined him financially to fulfill Hunter S. Thompson's own stipulated arrangements for his own funeral.
Yeah.
And to his credit, Johnny Depp paid for that and made that a reality, which involved shooting near his home, near Hunter S. Thompson's home in
the big Gonzo
Woody
fist.
Creek.
Yeah.
And they made a fist with six.
The Gonzo fist.
With 6 hands, which is 2 thumbs.
The peyote in the middle.
And
the peyote cactus.
A cactus in the middle. Yeah, thanks. And then shooting out his ashes through a cannon. And of course, that had to be filmed, and it was part of the documentary.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, you have these getting Fear and Loathing in Vegas book to people's awareness, and the character, making a new book available for the rest of the people to become aware of, the Rum Diary, which was published around the same time, becoming aware of the character and so on through the documentaries, and also the importance of the graphics and the visuals and so on, and supporting his funeral and making the whole complete Hunter S. Thompson fantasy a reality, the whole fiction becoming realized into reality. So he's done these things, 4 or 5 things. Yeah. And that's a cultural deed. Our problem comes when he wants to attach himself to it and benefit his own legacy as a cultural figure at kind of leeching, parasitically launching himself as someone that is perhaps on par. And if you don't watch this space carefully, you might think, yes,
that's it.
He you know.
So we're challenging that, the almost that premise of
the conclusion
of the pyramid.
The conclusion is that that he is a charlatan in this respect. Thank you for your money and for drawing attention to this through your own fame. As an actor, he did pretty well in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and in The Rum Diary. I kind of liked it.
Great films.
Great films. Yes, but you are not that driving force. You are merely an actor with a lot of money.
And this takes us back to the way...
A good actor with a lot of money.
And this kind of takes us back to the way I tried to introduce this, which was, you know, Johnny Depp. Because all of a sudden, we almost, you know, Hunter is almost the measure by which Johnny can be judged. And yet Johnny speaks of his relation for different, you can interpret it in different ways. You could take your view, which is that there's a kind of a parasite element and a charlatanistic, if that's a word, a kind of a way of appropriating to better himself and his own image. But the point is that it's not a partnership. And I think that in a way I mean, you said that, you know, the power is very difficult not to take on Hunter because of this power element.
Yes.
But actually, it can't be said the other way around. You know, I mean, yes, he's brought attention to it, but he hasn't, it's not on an equal pegging. It's basically, he's been a vessel for the brilliance of Hunter S. Thompson. He hasn't contributed to it. Whereas actually, Hunter has influenced him in a massive way. And I'll give you an example of where this is really explicit. Johnny Depp has recently written the foreword to a book that's been written by Doug Stanhope called Digging Up Mother. and it has the mimicking style of Hunter S. Thompson, the way in which Johnny Depp writes and therefore perhaps sees himself in the true artistic sense as a bit of a writer as well as a bit of an actor. He mimics. He's mimicking Hunter, and Hunter's and this isn't just my reading of style. It's not just that he writes in a way that can be compared to Gonzo. Whenever Johnny Depp writes, he makes reference to Hunter S. Thompson. It's clear that the voice, the writer's voice of Hunter S. Thompson is embedded in the blood of Johnny Depp.
Yes.
And
it's not a good look.
It's not a good look, and which is fine. People are influenced, particularly writers, actors, musicians, in lots of different ways. My objection is this attempt at being an equal. I think there should be a bit of humility, and actors should be a lot more humble than a lot of them are, because really what actors do, and I love film, of course, they're vessels for other people's creativity and other people's characters. The best actor is the actor that takes on the role, and you don't know that you're watching Mark Wahlberg. Of course you always do. You know it's Mark Wahlberg that you're watching. People watch Mark Wahlberg films because they like Mark Wahlberg.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas you can actually watch different Johnny Depp films because he is such a good actor, and maybe not like a certain character that he played. There was, I think it was, is it Rear Window? There was a big uproar that, you know...
Gosh, you've done your reading.
I've just watched films. But I mean, I can remember that when Johnny Depp did Rear Window, he played a bit of a bad guy, and people hated it because they didn't want to see this really pretty man playing such a bad and evil character. Okay? Good for you, Johnny Depp. Okay? That you're an actor, so you're playing a role that fascinates you. Fair enough. I suppose this is my problem with Johnny, and this is why we need to talk about him. Why can't he just be a vessel for the film adaptation of Hunter S. Thompson? Why does it have to be more than that? And yes, I agree, use the expression cultural deed. A cultural deed has been done, but it's been done in the full name of celebrity that is not humble, that it's not vessel-like. It's, as you said, it's charlatan. It's I'm the biggest fanboy. Not only am I the biggest fan, I was the biggest friend. I was the bravest one, the one that was brave enough to do it. And I find it problematic.
Yes, he's trying to get into shoes that are too big for him.
Exactly. And on that note, can I suggest something? And this is something that I was just thinking a little bit about last night. And recently, so as I said, I was playing around with this idea that is there a reciprocity between the people that the people that Johnny attaches himself to, and himself, himself and those he attaches to, and those he attaches to in him. Is there a reciprocity? And I would suggest not, because I think his
do you want to spell that out? Reciprocity in the sense that is he also built? Is he
so
also
did he influence Hunter? No. Did Hunter influence him?
No.
Yes. And these big roles that he takes on seem to influence his character.
No, I
but
agree.
not in the case of Doug Stanhope. This is incredibly frustrating to listen to, because Doug Stanhope is I mean, they're friends. They are friends.
Who? Depp and
Stanhope. They're really good friends. But I think that Stanhope has so much more to him than Johnny Depp as a friend. Okay. So it kind of annoyed me that Johnny Depp was doing the foreword to Stanhope's much-awaited book, which just tells, not to go into that.
It's just about mediocrity, isn't it?
But
popularity is not the same as talent.
Go on.
Everyone knows that
yes, of
Madonna is not a raw musical talent.
No.
It's possible to be both popular and have, for example, musical or artistic talent. Prince is a good example.
Yeah.
Madonna is not a good example. She only has popularity, and her popularity might actually come from the fact that everyone thinks, a bit like a Jesus figure, that you can become her by emulating her. That's not the case with Prince.
No.
That's not the case with Hunter S. Thompson.
No.
Anyway.
Just while I've got it in my head. So when there was the big uproar, the accusations of domestic abuse that ultimately, and I didn't follow the story, but with Amber Heard.
Amber Heard, yeah.
All I know is that it started with these accusations and it ended in divorce being granted.
Yes.
I'm not particularly interested in much about that.
Yeah.
Apart from the fact that Doug Stanhope wrote an article in defense of the accusations for an article called The Wire, for an output called The Wire. Now, isn't it interesting that Johnny Depp, the partner in crime of Hunter S. Thompson, brings about the film The Rum Diary and plays who? Young Hunter. Okay? And who does he meet playing young Hunter? The obsession of The Rum Diary, Hunter's obsession. The actress playing the character
is that
is young Hunter.
That's Amber Heard.
Falls in love with. Yeah. And that's where they met. That's where Johnny Depp and Amber Heard met, on the set of The Rum Diary.
It's not necessarily the young Hunter. Let's give him some credit as an author that isn't tied to his autobiography.
No, but I mean, yes, of course, but we've spoken about this previously, but it is young Hunter in a way. It's the story, and this is the way that Bruce Robinson wanted to tell the story of The Rum Diary. That it's about someone trying to find their voice.
Yes.
So it's Hunter S. Thompson before Hunter S. Thompson in a way. And it was a book that never got published till later, until he was established. So I'm going to run with it a little bit.
And
give me a bit of my own.
It's only a novel.
And it's only a novel.
Yeah. No, his only novel.
Yeah. So if you give me a bit of poetic license here,
it's possible.
I would say that the outcome of all this Amber Heard stuff,
the ultimate emulation is old Johnny, 52, playing young Hunter, about the same age as Amber Heard, who when they divorced was 30, so 22 years difference. Maybe he should get on to Nabokov and Lolita next.
I think maybe that's symbolic of the fact that he can't take on the weight of Hunter S. Thompson. That when he plays young Hunter and he meets the girl who's playing the role of Hunter's first love, it ends in this absolute mess.
Johnny, Hunter had quite an impression on you, didn't he?
So anyway, that's my little foray into.
Well, let's flesh this out a bit. So on the one hand, we have this kind of feeling that maybe he shouldn't be appreciated because he wants to bask in the glory of others. But on the other hand, if you go and we try to listen to the horse's mouth, Hunter S. Thompson actually himself, just to complement what you said about Bruce Robinson's compliments to Johnny Depp, Hunter S. Thompson was very approving of Johnny Depp, and I think genuinely.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen evidence of that at least once.
Interview evidence, yeah.
And the interview evidence, he says earnestly, and maybe he had a manipulative streak. That's quite possible with someone like that. But he did say, yeah, I like him a lot.
Yeah.
In reference to Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
He said about Johnny Depp, I like him a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that was heartfelt.
Okay.
I think that there was something there. But I think that really the problem with Johnny Depp comes after that period when Hunter was alive and during that process.
Yeah.
Because of course Hunter, had he commented on what happened after, how in every interview that Johnny Depp does, virtually, he makes references to his old friend, Hunter S. Thompson. And we will hear, for example, David Letterman and other talk show hosts bringing that up, which may or may not be accidental. It might be a direct reference to a wish that was expressed before those interviews, or in any case, it's something that is out there and that is well known, which to a large extent is the intended desire of Johnny Depp by virtue of him being involved as an actor, by virtue of him being involved himself in the documentary. He wanted to produce these documentaries and be on the other side of the camera, not just behind it.
Yeah.
So it's not just the culture that he wanted to involve himself in it. But the question is, what did Hunter S. Thompson see in Johnny Depp at that time? Okay. And I think that he saw quite a sensitive, talented man who was perhaps he was too sensitive, and he couldn't handle the sheer force that he was exposed to, and this is, we see this with Ralph Steadman too. He can't let that go.
No.
It's just hunter. If you see everything that, they take on these it becomes a monster when these people try to live like Hunter S. Thompson.
Which is always testament to the forceful character of Hunter S. Thompson, of course.
This is perhaps strange for people to understand. Strange for us to understand what it's like to be around Hunter S. Thompson, because he's such a unique character. He's a feature of nothing. He is his own sheer force. Mm-hmm. He's such a unique creature. But as an analogy, perhaps we can compare it to, there is that mythical creature of is it Pegasus? No, who is that mythical creature that you flew too close to the sun?
Oh,
and burnt the wings and fell.
Melted the wings, then drowned in the sea. It was. It's the Bruegel photo. Is the Bruegel picture?
Yes. Well, it's also a real figure in either Greek or Roman mythology. But nonetheless, if we have a real instantiation where that is often referenced, it's politics, and there will be this kind of claim that people that come close to power, and this brings it back full circle, I think, to Hunter, because of his obsession with power and politics himself.
And the edge. You said about flying too close.
Yeah.
He speaks about the edge.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, he described himself as a political junkie. But there are people who relish being close to power, and often confuse being close to power to having power, that power that they're exposed to.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that we start thinking about it. We can see in many aspects of life, not just politics. We can probably see it wherever you're close to someone that is powerful. I mean, just think about, we talked about fashion previously, and the Devil Wears Prada film is a reference to that. Someone who is close to power.
Okay, I don't know the film.
But
there's a
but I think there is this sort of complex going on here. There's this sort of dynamic. The Johnny Depp's fault was becoming too closely associated with something he couldn't take on and handle. It was he had a bigger appetite than he could stomach, literally.
Yeah, and we've said that this mistaking, or actually the overwhelm of being that close.
Overwhelm.
The capacity, or the incapacity, not the incapacity, being unable to carry the weight of a figure like Hunter S. Thompson. I mean, yes, maybe we find it frustrating when there's this fanboy, or as you said, a charlatan that attaches themselves to a figure that we admire. But actually, maybe the influence has been to the detriment of Johnny Depp. And maybe, and the reason why I say this is because, as I said at the very beginning, I've been a fan of Johnny Depp as soon as I discovered him in films. Probably for celebrity reasons as much as anything, just, growing up and watching MTV or whatever.
Yes.
I don't know the chronology of Depp's films, but I would be interested to see. I think there's a general trailing off of his artistic and acting capability.
But this seems to be general diagnosis.
Of actors?
Of him.
Of him?
Yeah.
But has Hunter got anything to play in this, do you think? In the overwhelm that you established?
I think so. I mean, okay, so what has Johnny Depp most recently been involved in? Well, the whole series of Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm a bit reluctant to make that sort of diagnosis. The critics, taking the kind of film critics stance where you're closely scrutinizing every single move and overanalyzing it. I feel a bit, well, they're actors, they're just doing their best. So in a sense, it is a move trying to diagnose someone's, is there a question of a decline? It's just this kind of, has it gone up, has it gone down, is it level?
But we're not talking about it in that way. We're talking about a specific instance that we.
Yes.
So I don't think there's a problem that we'd fall into that if we did think in those terms.
No.
Even a little bit, you know.
Well, I think there is a general problem of any Hollywood actor, anyone that becomes famous, becoming aware of how they are perceived, and then who can withstand that force? I mean, how can you not become aware of yourself the moment when you become famous?
Okay.
And how can that not influence your acting? I mean, if you're going to be in the limelight, the more you're in the limelight, the more that's going to happen. That's why you see some very good actors perhaps being almost recluse. Like Julia Roberts, we know very little about her private life, for example. Another example is the British actor who was in There Will Be Blood, Daniel Day-Lewis. Yeah. And he's also reclusive, withdrawn. Johnny Depp, he basks in the limelight. Perhaps it's a necessity, and maybe what he likes to do. I think that there is an honorable aspect to him. I think that he's got a good heart wanting to do these things, but
so you think that his
maybe he's also, perhaps you could also think that he's sacrificing himself.
We're moving. I mean,
maybe he's sacrificing himself.
Some kind of heroic figure.
Yeah,
I'm not too sure.
No, I'm not so sure about that. It's a possibility.
I mean, on that point, so you suggested perhaps that rather than being a product of his relation to Hunter, his
alleged general decline is
a product of his celebrity. The fact that we're not born to have the world revolving around us in the way that celebrities often are.
And as an actor, how can it not come back and mirror your own behavior?
That's true. However, and this might be something that kind of feeds us back in.
Necessarily to mention in that context is that his general perception is tainted by his association with Hunter S. Thompson. There is an element of that. Perhaps, right. I don't know. Maybe not.
I don't know either. But what I do know...
Fear and Loathing, at least, is the most...
But what I do know is that Johnny Depp would not be on my radar if it hadn't been for the people that he has been associating with from Hunter S. Thompson onwards.
Not even Edward Scissorhands?
No. I mean, it's not my type of... it's...
Did he play Charlie in the
Charlie Chocolate Factory, yeah.
But he's an odd guy, but he's kind of odd. He plays odd characters on film.
Fascinating characters.
Fascinating characters, but Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, this new British character that he plays, where he plays some Baron something with strange massage, and it just looks so pretentious, and the Pirates of the Caribbean. It's the strangeness, the weirdness in that is Gonzo, or it's an interpretation of Gonzo.
Okay.
So, but all this stuff said, I've watched a few of these Pirates of the Caribbean. Okay. Having thought along those terms a lot, and being susceptible to not just your judgment, but also general. There is a general perception that he's all gone downhill, which is reflected also in the way that the media treats him, doesn't defend him with Amber Heard and so on. Yeah. There was always also a little incident where they couldn't import something when they traveled. His dog from Australia, and they made
got brought into the divorce about who gets it anyway. Yeah.
Sarcastic thing about.
They didn't declare them or something, didn't they?
No, but then they made a sarcastic video and then they posted it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, this kind of
really
dry.
Really dry.
It was in Australia, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And he started speaking about the the sensitive environment here, and bringing in something from the ecosystem is wrong, or something he just said.
Yes, this kind of sometimes Americans, seriously. Yes, it's this kind of slightly. Never mind, but yes, no, but so there is certain. Just to say that there is a suspicion of him generally. And so I've been aware of that, and I watched very late Pirates of the Caribbean, also having been, a bit, I'm not so certain about watching them because they're so mainstream. But I quite like them for what they are.
You said you did, yeah.
And I think that we should judge things in that regard and not be so tainted. But I like them. He plays an odd character there, and it's what it is. It's saved by its world, And how could you? I mean, he's slightly irritating if you look too closely if you focus too much on him. But the world of the Caribbean is a world like the other series that have been so popular.
But we get into something else here.
Yes.
Which is not so much. I mean, I've seen the first Pirates of the Caribbean. I haven't seen any of the others. I've got no interest in seeing them. However. Johnny's saving grace for me, and the reason why he's on the radar is that he followed fascinating characters. And Pirates of the Caribbean, although he played it in an interesting way with this, spending time with Keith Richards and adopting some of these, mannerisms, he still did Pirates of the Caribbean. I mean, I don't like this expression. It's certainly not the line of argument that I'm taking here.
What about role models here?
Is it a bit of a sellout thing? I don't know. I don't like.
Yes.
So there you go.
Yes.
So he undermines the one saving grace that he had by doing something like that. As I said to you earlier, I can completely get the different characters that he took on. The different.
Okay. Let's agree on that. It's sellout and it's mainstream and it's a bit dull. Kind of nice, but
okay.
Maybe he will come back. Maybe he won't. But. I have no doubt that he can be a good actor. But I think that this is moving into something that is very interesting. Why does this very successful, very wealthy, popular, handsome, actor, musician,
Director.
icon,
Yeah.
Why does he need Hunter S. Thompson all of a sudden? And I think the answer can be very crudely put. Actors and role models doesn't work. Actors cannot have actors as role models because of, let's call it the mirror stage.
Let's not. You're going to go all Lacan on us. Okay, carry on. Sorry.
Because of the mirror position.
Yeah, the closeness. Yeah, okay.
No, because of the nature of what acting is.
Say more.
I will in a minute. Unlike a writer, such as Hunter S. Thompson, because a writer can have role models and then develop their own voice ultimately, not unlike academics or thinkers.
Who are ultimately writers as well.
Yeah. But who were Hunter S. Thompson's role models? And when did he have them? He had them at a very early stage in his career, when he was maybe 16, 17.
Fitzgerald, Hemingway.
He'd read Nietzsche.
Had he read Nietzsche? Okay.
Yes.
I didn't know that, actually.
It's a comment in passing that I picked up on. But yes, he did have especially two. And those were Hemingway, and they were Scott F. Fitzgerald. F. Scott Fitzgerald. And he emulated them at the beginning of his career before he was famous, because he wanted to learn, as he said himself, from the best, and he emulated them. That's not very well known, but and he found his voice through emulating them, and I think that they were close to him throughout.
And what's really important about that, just to emphasize your point, is that by not just emulating them, but writing out their copy word for word,
yes,
over and over again.
Gatsby twice.
The Sun Also Rises, and we spoke briefly about how that actually translates into some of the scenes in the Rum Diary as well. But if you remember, the most important thing to remember about this as well is that yes, he wrote them word for word. So he didn't just emulate; he copied. He copied them.
Yes.
And how different is his voice? So he could copy and find his own voice. As an exercise
to learn.
So how would an actor copy? I mean,
well, this is I think a point. So whereas Hunter S. Thompson mimicked a bit like you submit yourself to a master as an apprentice, as a student, master apprentice.
Yep. That's what we mean by mimic, not the derogatory sense of mimicking, like taking the piss.
It was complete self-sacrifice in the kind of apprenticeship period.
Yeah.
And then he found his voice and he stood on his own ground and he created something. So it was necessary for him. Is that possible for an actor to have? Is that comparable? I doubt it. And I think that explains. So an actor will forever, like Johnny Depp, fumble in the dark for a role model. They shouldn't look for them. This is perhaps the predicament of being an actor. This perhaps explains why it's so emotionally difficult to be an actor.
It's a product of the craft,
And I don't know, perhaps we would have to talk to an actor, but could we trust him?
Well, one thing that we don't need is more interviews with actors. if there is the actor's opinion of the film that they're in, and
personally, I'm only interested in actors when they comment on global warming.
Well, yeah, of course,
obviously, and world peace.
I think you've touched on something really interesting, and it's in keeping with the contrast that we've made, actually. And it's worth noting, just for the general framing of this podcast, we knew we were going to talk about Hunter S. Thompson, inevitably. But I didn't think he would be such a focal point in this. I thought we would speak a little more about Johnny without having Hunter as a proxy, who's throughout.
Okay, interesting.
Did you think that we were
Have we missed some stuff on Johnny in and of himself without the Hunter aspect?
Well, I think that what you've said is allowing us to maybe think about Johnny in and of himself because of what he is, which is an actor, and then what an actor is in terms of having a craft that by the nature of what actors do can't have role models within their own domain.
Yes. There is a term, virtue. I don't know, the virtu, the Latin. It means something to the effect originally, I think, that you do one thing well and that you're content with it. So the basis for the word virtue as the opposite of vice is that you do one thing well and that you're content with that. It's in the will to power.
I suppose as well you get a chance as an actor, I think, to do the one thing of being an actor allows you to do lots of singular things well when you take on a role properly. And you mentioned Daniel Day-Lewis earlier. He uses the Stanislavski method of really of taking on the character and keeping it in their everyday life.
Yes.
Now, Johnny Depp did that with Hunter. I don't know if it was the method in the same sense, but he spent time with him and he learned the mannerisms, and it was really well done. You do feel that you're watching what you know of Hunter S. Thompson when you watch the film. But clearly, doing that film well, to use your expression, that one thing well, even if that makes up a career of doing one thing well, which is acting in the broadest sense, it clearly wasn't enough for Johnny Depp. He couldn't just leave Hunter alone after he'd done great service to the character and to the narrative. He had to take it one step further.
He wanted to evolve himself.
And this is a common theme with actors all the time. You made a joke earlier, and I don't mind actors being interviewed unless they're talking about Yeah, so the virtue doing one thing well, he needed more. And you made the joke earlier about how you don't like listening to actors unless they're talking about global warming.
Yes.
But surely that's just there's this need in the actor to do more than one thing well. Acting's not enough for the actor. And maybe it's because of a product, as you suggested, of what acting is, as a craft.
Yeah.
There's a community that's also, it's a fucked up thing, acting. I mean, if you look at the kind of sets, the acting sets.
But one thing I think we've touched on here is mimicking. I mean, he's parroting a bit, Hunter. But one thing that an actor pointed out to me, that being an actor, especially in relationship to Stanislavski's The Method, is not to mimic, but to use your experiences as a tool. You are a tool.
It's a process of interpretation as much as it is.
It's not mimicking. That's not what the actor does in this school. That's admirable, this actor pointed out to me, but that's not what an actor ultimately is. It's using your experiences to portray a certain scene or character. And the most important component there, aspect of being an actor, is that you know what it means to want something. Because if you know what it means to want something, then you have to think about, how do I show